Ever since I published my Dark Souls retrospective, I've gotten quite a lot of hate comments from people who love giving Dark Souls some fellatio. Obviously, the most common hate comment I received on that video from Dark Souls fellators is telling me to just get good. Well, I have no interest in getting good, since I have no interest in playing that game ever again. The only way I would consider picking that game up again is if some Dark Souls fellator were to throw some Patreon support my way and give me the assignment of playing that game again per my gold level Patreon benefits. However, there is at least one game in the Git Good family that I actually enjoy. Like Dark Souls, it is primarily marketed on its crushing and punishing difficulty, and like Dark Souls, it is considered to be hard but fair. Today, I would like to explain why I believe Super Meat Boy does Git Good right. Reason number 1, its story. Now, in my Dark Souls retrospective, I mentioned how Dark Souls has no story, or at the very least does everything it can to hide its story from the player. While the most common comment I have received on that video told me to just get good, the second most common comment I received is various Dark Souls fellators saying that I must have skipped the opening cutscene of the game. I honestly find such comments to be quite rich, seeing as I provided a link to my Let's Play in that retrospective video, and the opening cutscene is clearly in the first episode of that Let's Play series. Just to make this exceptionally clear, yes, I did indeed see the opening cutscene. And I still say that the game never communicated any proper story to me. That cutscene did not establish a story. What it established was a setting and a backstory. In a time long, long ago, the world was dark. Then some guy with a god complex invented fire and therefore began civilization. Okay, so we're in the first age of fire, the dawn of civilization. Cool. So, what the fuck is the problem that I'm supposed to solve? This opening cutscene doesn't establish any sort of conflict. It doesn't tell me who the bad guy is, or even a red herring bad guy. It doesn't tell me what my role is in this world. There is no plot that's being presented to me, no premise. People, this is not a story. Setting and backstory can certainly enhance a story, but it isn't a substitute for having a story. By contrast, let's look at Super Meat Boy. Before you even get to the main menu, you know exactly what just went down. There are 3 main characters in this story: Meat Boy, Bandage Girl, and Dr. Fetus. Meat Boy and Bandage Girl love each other. That's all we ever learn about them, but that's all we ever really need to know about them. And Dr. Fetus is an incel who is jealous of Meat Boy and Bandage Girl's happiness. So Dr. Fetus kidnaps Bandage Girl, and your mission is to go and save her. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call a premise for a story. We know who the bad guy is. We know what the conflict is. We know what our role is in the conflict. Wham bam, thank you ma'am. Super Meat Boy immediately gets me invested in the game because it first gets me invested in the story. Speaking of knowing what my role is, that leads me to my next point. Super Meat Boy is much more efficient at telling the player what to do. And I don't mean a story objective, I mean a gameplay objective. There are over 240 levels in this game, and they all have a clearly communicated objective: get to Bandage Girl. When Meat Boy and Bandage Girl reunite, Dr. Fetus takes Bandage Girl to the next level, rinse and repeat. Mechanically, the Bandage Girl sprite is the gameplay equivalent of an end-of-level flagpole in the 2D Mario games. You complete the level by touching the sprite. As such, each level has a clearly communicated objective. In Dark Souls, what am I supposed to do to advance the story? Go and ring a few church bells. Okay, where are these church bells? Well, one of them is located in Blighttown. Okay, where's Blighttown? Bitch, figure it out yourself. Why don't you just get good at navigating? Now, as I understand it, once I ring both of these church bells, that was supposed to be the moment in this game where I actually got fully briefed on what the actual story of this game is. To that I say, why the fuck should I care about a game that has literally given me no reason to care about it that I would want to get that far in the first place? Frankly, if you want me to become invested enough in a game that I'm willing to get good, maybe a little sense of direction, not hand-holding, mind you, just a sense of direction would certainly give me that initial push in the right direction. Reason number 3, the aesthetic. Okay, so the whole point of both Dark Souls and Super Meat Boy is that you die constantly. And those who are willing to persist through adversity are the ones who will most excel at these games. As the old adage goes, it's not how many times you fall, but how many times you get back up. These two games epitomize that mindset, right? Well, the use of the game's aesthetics can certainly go a long way towards encouraging me to actually want to get back up and try again. This is where Dark Souls hands down falls flat on its ass. The overall aesthetic is just depressing. The characters in universe have completely given up all hope. So why should I be expected to give any more of a shit than the actual game does? Then there's the music. The music, in keeping with its depressing tone, is extremely somber. Not the kind of music that makes you want to kick some ass. By contrast, let's have a listen at Super Meat Boy's soundtrack. Oh, hell yeah! Now this is the kind of music that gives me an adrenaline rush. This is what makes me want to keep getting back up. This music makes me want to kick someone's ass. When it comes to encouraging me to want to get good at the game, Super Meat Boy's graphics may be neutral, but Dark Souls graphics lose by default because they go out of their way to make me want to just say, fuck it. But the music is where Super Meat Boy straight up mops the floor with Dark Souls. Super Meat Boy's soundtrack keeps me pumped, keeps me ready for more, and makes me want to blow through these levels. Speaking of the levels, reason number 4. The way the games handle death. Okay, so dying is a major mechanic in both of these games. You will die often, and you will die in unexpected ways. However, the way Super Meat Boy handles death actually makes me want to get back up and try again. Whereas Dark Souls, in keeping with its depressing aesthetic, handles death in a way that actively discourages me from trying again. To show you what I mean, let me show you what happens when you die in Super Meat Boy. Boom! I'm right back in the thick of things. Now, let's take a look at what happens when you die in Dark Souls. Jesus Christ, that took forever! In fact, let's see how many Super Meat Boy death and respawning sequences I can fit into just one Dark Souls death and respawning sequence. If you want to make a game that embodies the spirit of "it's not how many times you fall, but how many times you get back up," then I feel you owe it to your audience to make the act of getting back up as convenient as possible for the end user. Now, some Dark Souls filators might argue, well, that's the whole point of Dark Souls. There's a consequence for death, so you're encouraged to get good so you don't go through the slow-as-death sequence quite as often. Okay, so the whole point of Dark Souls is to inconvenience the player? Since when has in-user inconvenience been a good thing about a game? And finally, reason number 5, the frequency of save spots. As I mentioned, there are over 240 levels in Super Meat Boy. However, these levels are usually pretty short. They can typically be completed in under a minute each, and not even by speedrunning. The game will certainly take a whole lot more than 240 minutes to beat on your first playthrough, because you will die so many times that each level, especially in the latter half of the game, can easily take over half an hour each. However, no matter how many times you die, you'll always be just 1 minute away from the next checkpoint. Dark Souls, by contrast, places bonfires, the game's safe spots, rather far apart from each other. I mean, has anyone ever measured the distance between the Firelink Shrine and the Undead Burg? Or the time it takes you to get from one to the other without speed running or sequence breaking? It's a hell of a lot more than 1 minute, I can tell you that much. Now, how does this prove that Super Meat Boy does Git Gud right? Because it perfectly complements the earlier example of how Super Meat Boy handles death and respawns better. It encourages you to keep on trying, because the absolute maximum amount of progress you could possibly lose upon dying is a wet fart's worth. If you die immediately before the next bonfire in Dark Souls, the amount of retreading you have to do in order to get back to the spot where you previously died can be quite disheartening. Part of the course for Dark Souls. But with Super Meat Boy, no matter how far away you are from your next checkpoint, you are still just a little farther. That gives you an incentive to keep on keeping on. So there you have it. 5 reasons why Super Meat Boy is better than Dark Souls when it comes to being a Git Good type of game. Considering that Super Meat Boy came first, I'm kind of disappointed that it didn't become the definitive Git Good game. It's honestly a tragedy that Dark Souls gets the nod over Super Meat Boy, because Super Meat Boy did it first, and they did it better. And with that, I bid you all adieu. Acer Thorn out. Peace!